Ice Age predators pulled from the ice with fur, skin, even their last meal still inside them. Medieval bodies frozen so perfectly you can see their faces, and deadly anthrax brought back to life from thawing permafrost. These are disturbing discoveries found deep in the Arctic. When you think about things buried deep in Arctic ice, you probably picture ancient bones, but in northern Siberia, scientists pulled 2 Ice Age wolf pups out of the ground with their fur, skin, and stomach contents still completely intact, like they'd just fallen asleep a week before, except they were over 14,000 years old. They're called the Tumat puppies, named after the village nearby, found in 2011 and 2015. At first, researchers thought they might be early domesticated dogs, because they turned up near what looked like human butchering sites with burned mammoth bones around them. But genetic testing came back and said no, they were actually ancient wolves. Everything was so well preserved that scientists could do chemical analysis on the tissue to figure out what these animals were actually eating. And inside one of the pups' stomachs, they found woolly rhinoceros meat. And from that one stomach, they were able to pull a complete woolly rhino genome, which had never been done before. So that one wolf pup's last meal ended up being one of the most important paleontology finds in years. Near Salikard in western Siberia, archaeologists found a medieval burial site called Zeleny Yar, and it really is unlike anything else. Because the ground is permafrost, bodies dating back to the 1200s came out of the earth with skin, organs, and soft tissue still there, not just bones. You could actually see what people were wearing. Some still had fur under their burial wrappings, others had bronze or copper plates placed on top of them. Blades, tools, beads, leather clothing, all of it buried right alongside the bodies. There were 47 graves total. Most bodies were positioned feet first toward a nearby river, so there had to be some kind of spiritual reason for that. It likely wasn't a coincidence. DNA testing confirmed these were local Siberian people, and analysis of what was in their stomachs gave researchers a look at what they were eating and how healthy they were. Permafrost basically locked everything in place for 700 or 800 years, so now we can look at their clothes, their tools, their diet. A weirdly complete picture of what life looked like up there in the Middle Ages. Siberia's permafrost has produced some of the most complete Ice Age animals ever found anywhere. The most famous is probably Lyuba, a baby mammoth pulled out of the ice in 2007. She's around 42,000 years old, and when they found her, the skin, hair, and organs were all still there. They could see what was in her stomach. Another one named Yuka, found in 2010, was a young adult with healed injuries and worn down teeth. Tells you a good amount about the life she actually lived. Preservation was good enough to study muscle tissue, fat, and internal organs, and the fur was preserved well enough you could see the thickness and color, which gives scientists a better idea of how these animals handled the cold. In the summer of 2016, a young boy in a remote part of Siberia died from anthrax. Dozens of other people were hospitalized, and around 2,300 reindeer dropped dead across the Yamel Peninsula. Nobody had seen an anthrax outbreak in that region for 75 years though. So where did this come from? The answer was the permafrost. That summer was unusually warm, and the thaw went deeper than normal. Somewhere underneath the surface, a reindeer carcass that had been frozen in the ground for decades, possibly over a century, thawed out, and the anthrax spores inside it were still alive. Anthrax spores are almost uniquely good at surviving in frozen ground. They can essentially be dormant for an extraordinary long time and still be infectious the moment they're thawed. Luckily, things were contained before it got disastrous, but this case really got people thinking, what else might be hiding in permafrost? Scientists already know there are regions of Siberia where there were mass die-offs of animals from various diseases over the past few centuries that were never properly contained. Researchers have also found fragments of other ancient pathogens from permafrost, including a giant virus over 48,000 years old that was still capable of infecting cells when they revived it in the lab. So this 2016 anthrax outbreak was a kind of preview of what could happen when ground that's been frozen for a very long time suddenly isn't. In southwest Alaska, archaeologists dug up a burial site called Nunalleq that goes back about 6,000 years. The permafrost kept everything, human remains, clothing, and artifacts in remarkable shape. Around 140 people have been recovered so far, many with soft tissue still on them. They're buried with the stuff they used every day, like wooden paddles, baskets, harpoon heads, clothing made from bird skins and steel hide. Bone and tooth tools were in there as well, which helped researchers figure out what people were eating and how they were hunting. DNA tests showed they're directly related to today's Yupik and Inuit people, a line that goes back thousands of years. Under the ice of western Greenland, there's a Cold War secret that's been sitting frozen for decades. In 1959, the US Army carved a whole base into the Greenland ice sheet with tunnels, living spaces, all of it built inside solid ice and snow. Called it Camp Century. To the public, it was a research station, but behind that, it was part of a plan called Project Iceworm. The idea being to hide nuclear missiles under the ice in launch sites that could survive a Soviet strike. The tunnels ran nearly 2 miles, and the whole operation was running off a portable nuclear reactor buried underground. The problem was the ice kept shifting, so by 1967 they gave up and walked away, leaving diesel fuel waste and equipment all just sitting inside. In 2024, NASA radar imaging picked it all back up, buried under at least 100 feet of ice. But there's a bit of a problem. The Arctic is warming faster than almost anywhere on Earth right now, so researchers are genuinely concerned that Camp Century's frozen grave could melt open in the coming decades and just release everything that was left behind straight into the environment. On Spitsbergen, an island in Norway's Svalbard archipelago, researchers keep finding massive whale bones on dry land, sometimes hundreds of meters from the water. These aren't recent. Radiocarbon dating puts a lot of them at 5,000 to 7,000 years old. Comes down to what happened after the Ice Age. Around 10,000 years ago, enormous glaciers covered the region. When they melted, the land, which had been compressed under all the weight for thousands of years, started slowly rising back up. That process is actually still happening today. So whales that died in the shallow coastal water thousands of years ago ended up stranded inland as the shoreline crept further and further out. In November 1918, a small Inuit village in Alaska called Breivik Mission lost 72 of its 80 villagers to the Spanish flu in under a week. They were buried in a mass grave dug into the permafrost just outside the village. In 1997, a pathologist named Johan Hulten came to the site. He was looking for one specific thing: lung tissue that might still have fragments of the 1918 virus in it. Because the ground had stayed frozen for nearly 80 years, one of the women buried there still had soft lung tissue intact. Samples were removed and sent to the CDC. By 2005, scientists had reconstructed the complete genetic sequence of the 1918 H1N1 flu. What they found explained something that had been a mystery for decades. Why had this particular flu killed so many healthy young adults, not just the elderly and children like most strains do? Well, turned out the virus had mutations that triggered an unusually severe immune response, essentially causing the body to overreact. Figuring that out at the genetic level completely changed how scientists prepared for pandemics and how they judge new flu strains today. In 2001, a Russian archaeologist named Vladimir Putilko was working along the Yana River in northern Siberia, well above the Arctic Circle. His team found something that rewrote what we thought we knew about early humans. The site dates back about 31,000 to 32,000 years. Before this, most researchers assumed humans didn't permanently live that far north until around 15,000 years ago. This pushed that number back by nearly double. They found over 2,500 artifacts, like spear points carved from mammoth tusk, tools, beads, and animal bones from mammoths, woolly rhinos, bison, Arctic foxes, and reindeer. Signs of a well-oiled community. The temperature out there would have been well below freezing for most of the year, though, so whoever these people were, they'd figured out clothing, shelter, food storage, all the planning and organization you'd need to survive winters like that. In 1845, Sir John Franklin took 2 ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, north to find the Northwest Passage. Both ships vanished, all 129 crew members gone. Nobody knew what happened for a long time. Then in 2014, the Erebus turned up near King William Island, and 2 years later, the Terror was found. When the HMS Terror was found in September 2016, Terror Bay off King William Island, it wasn't smashed apart or scattered across the seafloor. It was sitting completely upright at about 24 meters of water. The ships got locked in ice in 1846. The crew walked away from them in 1848, so by the time anyone found the Terror, it had been sitting down there for 168 years. Underwater teams sent ROVs inside to look around. What they saw was incredible. Glass still in the windows, plates and bottles sitting in storage areas. In the captain's cabin, drawers were closed. Things looked relatively well organized. It was like somebody had just stepped away for a minute. Arctic water is so cold and so low in oxygen that the organisms which would usually eat through wood, they just can't survive there. So the ship barely decayed. That has been the video for today. I will catch you, yes you specifically, next time.